Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. This video we're going to be talking about arrays and vectors. Let's start with arrays. As it says here, an array is a compound data type, which means it stores elements of the same data type together as a collection. Now, the data types that an array store can only be of one data type. Arrays cannot store variables of different data types together. So basically we can have an array of strings, an array of integers, an array of characters, but we cannot mix them together. And then something else that is very important to know is that individual elements in an array can be accessed through their index. And the index is basically the memory location where a certain element of an array is stored. Now, so that it makes a little bit more sense, I'm going to create an array right now. This is going to be the way we create an array. First, we initialize the data type of the array. So it's going to be an array of strings. And then you name the array, and let's name it days of the week. The week. And then something that is very important, the main difference between an array and a vector is that an array is fixed in size. So whatever you initialize the size of an array to be, it cannot be changed unless you go back into the source code and you change it yourself. So you cannot change it during runtime. So what we have to do now is we have to tell the compiler how large the array, how many elements the array is going to have. In this case, there's 7 days of the week, so the size of the array is 7. And then what you could do is you could say what the individual members of the array are called. Now, the first member, which is stored in index position 0. Something very important to note here is arrays start at 0, like the indexes start at 0, which is a little bit weird because normally you would count from 1, but in computer science and in programming it always starts at 0. So this is stored at index 0. Monday is stored at index 0. The string Monday is stored at index 0, and it is the first day of the week. Then we have Tuesday. Then we have Wednesday. Then we have Thursday, and then we have Thursday. Then we have Friday. Then we have Saturday. So as you can probably tell, they're all strings. That's why we have these double speech marks here to declare, to show that those are actually strings. And of course, semicolon at the end. Alright, so this is our array. It stores the 7 days of the week. It is an array of strings, as all of these elements are strings. And what we could do is we don't necessarily have to initialize all of the elements of the array. We could just, delete all this. But then we would have to say, but then like all of the days of the week will be initialized to 0 because we haven't declared it. Or we could do is, we don't necessarily need the bracket 7 here. Okay guys, so we don't necessarily have to initialize the size of the array, but it does it automatically when we add all of these elements. It counts them, obviously, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it automatically puts a 7 in here. So we don't really have to do it. Okay, now you may be wondering, how do we, what if we want to execute a specific the member at a specific instance in an array, a specific index. So what you have to do is, if we want to, for example, know what the third day of the week is, we would have to say cout days of the week, and then the index position of Wednesday. So that's 0. That's Monday is index position 0. Tuesday is index position 1. Wednesday is index position 2. So we have to put a 2 in here. That's how we access a specific index in an array. And let's just run this. And we should be getting a Wednesday. Wednesday. Okay, so we could do the same thing, but we could create an array of integers, and the way we do that is just we follow the same pattern. We just put in here. We declare the type of the array, and then we have to give it a name and the size of an array. The size. Okay, let's call it test scores. Test scores. And say we want 10 test scores. Now we don't necessarily need 10 test scores. We could just put 3 or 4 test scores in there, so we have 6 more test scores available if we want to input them into the array. So let's go for 80, 75, 69, I don't know, 90, 92, and 93. So we have 5 test scores here, so we still have 5 more elements that we could add to the array. Alright guys, so this is basically how you create an array. Remember, first you need to declare the data type of the array. If it's an array of strings, an array of integers, an array of characters, then you have to give it a name. Then you could give it a size, or you could just initialize all of the elements of an array, or some of them. And that's pretty much it. Now we can talk about vectors. So in order to use vectors, we have to include the vector library up here. Includes vector library up here. Now, of course, whenever we initialize a vector, the first thing we have to say is vector. Alright, so the computer knows that we're talking about a vector. And a vector, and then we have to put these signs, and inside we have to put the type of the vector, because similar to the array, a vector can only store data types. Like, you cannot store different data types. It has to store one specific data type. For example, we could have a vector of integers, a vector of strings, just like an array. So let's make a vector of integers. So vector int, and the good thing about vectors is that they're dynamic in size, which basically means that they could be increased. They don't have a fixed size. You could give them a fixed size, but then you could add, you could keep adding elements to a vector, and that would be completely fine. Whereas arrays are fixed in size. So vectors are more powerful in that way, in that sense. Okay, let's create a vector of integers and school ages. Why not? Let's school ages. Um, let's say that across the school there are different age groups, obviously. So let's go for 7, 9, 15, 17, 18, 6, 5, 13, 13, and 14. Alright. Now, just like with an array, we could access a specific element using its index position. But the way we do it with vectors is slightly different. The thing is, vectors, they have specific functions attached to them. There are three main ones we're going to be learning, but they're basically the pushback function, the .add function, and the size function. So the way it works is if we want to access a specific index of a vector and display it, then we have to use the .add function. So basically how it works is school ages .add, and within the brackets you have to give the index. Now let's say we want to access the school ages at index position 3, which should basically give me 17. Remember, just like with arrays, it starts at 0. The index position starts at 0. So yeah, now we're accessing the element at index number 3. And index number 3 would be index 0, this is the index 1, this is the index 2, this is index 3, so 17. Now another quite intelligent thing we could do with vectors that just shows how flexible they are is we could add a new age to the vector just by using the pushback function. Now, to do that, all we need is just to say school ages, which refers to this vector. Then we have to say dot pushback, and then the age you want to push back, and it will push back this age to the back of the cell, to the back of the vector, so to the last index. So we'll basically create a new index, and it will put 18 in it. The way we could check it works is we could say, school ages at index position 10. Because if we count, before there used to be 9 indexes in here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. And now there should be 10 indexes because we created and we pushed back a new variable. $17, $18. Yeah, we should probably create a new line here. Right. Now another smart feature of vectors is that we can find out the size of a vector just by using the dot size function. So we could do cout school ages dot size. So dot size, dot add, and dot pushback are So yeah, 11, which basically means we have 11 members, 11 elements in this vector. And is that right? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Because we have a new member, new element, 18, which is right here. Okay, so these are the three main functions of a vector that you should probably know. I think this will wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and keep practicing. You know, just getting used to vectors, arrays, create programs, write your own codes, write your own programs to understand how it all works and how it all works together, and stay curious. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.